Hey guys, Terrence here again with another edition of Let's Talk Reef. It is still summertime. We're here at Neptune Systems having a good time back from Reefapalooza. Wow, just yesterday we got back. I did see a message out there from Frank, I'm going to mess this name up, Zoniak. I guess the P is silent there. Are you guys going, oh sorry, wrong one. Greg Bruger, back from RAP already? Y'all don't play. Yeah, that's for sure. We had quite an experience over at Reefapalooza. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We got quite a show here for you today, so please stick through the whole thing because we're going to be covering what happened at RAP. We're going to be talking to KOHEN from LiveAquaria. So I hope you guys have lots of good questions and start feeding them into the stream. Right now it looks like we may only be on Facebook. I don't know that our YouTube stream is working. So if you know somebody who's normally catching us on YouTube, go ahead and send them a text or something. Tell them to pop on over to Facebook because it doesn't look like, for whatever reason, the stream's coming through on YouTube. That's fine. And then after that, we're going to talk about what we're doing at MACNA with Paul. A lot of fun stuff going to be happening at MACNA, so you'll want to stick around and talk to us about that. Let's go through the whole thing here of what we got going on. All right. First of all, you guys have to like and subscribe our page in order to get to us. If you don't do that, you're not going to get the notifications. You're going to forget about coming to these, and you're going to miss the whole interactive part of the experience. And watching them after the fact, you just kind of feel left out. Plus, you can't get your questions answered, by us live if you're not here live. So make sure you go out and you subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the page. It's real easy to do. And if you do it on Facebook, make sure that you tell it to see us first. That way you won't miss them. And that you want to get the notifications, of course, on YouTube. All you need to do is click the subscribe button. Do that right now if you're on YouTube. Oh, that's right. YouTube's not here. And then hit the bell. Of course, hit the bell. So we got lots to do here today, so I'm not going to fill up the beginning time with a whole lot of stuff because we want to get right to KOHEN, but there are some things to cover. Let's see. The first one, we did have a discussion at Reefapalooza where it came up that let's see, Trident? Yeah, there we go. Trident News, where we were actually moving to lower the cost of the reagents for the Trident by offering a 6-month kit of the reagents. And so that is going to be available for you to purchase beginning next week. You'll be able to buy it through the Neptune Systems store, or you'll be able to buy it now from any of our major retailers. That means local fish stores, our major local fish stores, of course, because there are certain requirements to carry the reagents. And then also, of course, our online stores. These reagents come, like I said, in a 6-month pack. So it's basically 3 2-month packs. And you're going to be able to purchase that for $99.95. The 2-month pack is $44.95. So it's considerably cheaper if you buy them in the 6-month pack. It comes out to something like less than 7 cents per test to run the Trident. So we did that for you guys. We wanted to make sure you could get the best deal possible. So look for it next week. We'll have those reagents out there for sale for you. So that's the first good news. Then now we're talking about what is happening on the road. Well, of course, as I said, we came back from Reefapalooza. What an amazing show. The guys, talk about don't play. The guys down there at Southern California Marine Aquarium Society, they don't play. They put on an event. This is not some backyard event. This is a real serious trade show. Every year, it just keeps getting better and better. It's down in Anaheim. It's right across from Disney. If you haven't been, please, next year, make some time to go to this because it's an amazing event. Greg Carroll, Cody, many others, they all do. They put so much time into making this thing great. We do have another Reefapalooza coming up in Chicago, October 19th to 20th. But what was really cool at this particular Reefapalooza was we like to do raffles where we don't get the money, right? We give the money to charity. And we also don't like to not allow the clubs, when they're involved in an event, to also make money off of their charity for their own club. So we thought when we came into Reefapalooza, how can we put those two things together? And I worked with Greg and with Cody and said, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't I give you guys a Trident to raffle off in the raffle? And when the raffle is over, go ahead and count out the tickets. And whatever you take, whatever your take is from the raffle, take half of it for your club and take the other half and push it out to, let's say, Coral Restoration Foundation, a really great charity. And they agreed, and this weekend they had like 2,300 tickets or something in the bucket. They collected nearly, I don't know, it's nearly $2,000 in tickets. $867 of it was half of it. Those guys are so cool. They went ahead and upped that to an even $1,000 out of their own treasury, going to the Coral Restoration Foundation. So, you know, definitely go get some likes on their page, their Instagram, everything. Show up at the Reefapalooza next year here in Anaheim, California, and give them some love. Buy some raffle tickets when you're out there. This is what it is for teamwork, working with the manufacturers along with the clubs putting on these events. I love it, and so happy it worked out that way. Of course, we have the big show of the year coming up. It is a crazy 2 weeks here at Neptune Systems. We just finished that Reefapalooza. We drove back yesterday. Some of us picked up some really cool sticks over at Unique Corals. Joe there hooked us all up. Unique Corals, uniquecorals.com. And we did that on the way back, so it took us a little longer to get home. And then even when we got home, we still had to dip corals and put them in their tank. We even picked up some fish and other things at the show. I finally sat down at 10:30 last night after all of that. But here we are again today, and the crazy thing is we have to pack up our crate. Paul and Vincent are just been out there just sweating away, putting together the crate, because tomorrow it has to get picked up and taken out to MACNA. If there's one thing I got to say, that's the one thing I'm not so happy about, is whoever decided to have these two events so close together, because it is a lot of work to put on two events within 2 weeks that are one on each coast. Anyway, we're going to talk more about MACNA stuff at the end of the show after Kevin comes on. Paul's going to come on here. We're going to talk about everything that we've got going on at MACNA and why, if you're going to MACNA, you got to come to our breakfast, and if you're not going to MACNA, you should be looking at how you can get there. Okay, so that's that. We talked about the reagents, 6-month kits, and you know what? Why don't we kick it right over into Kevin? That's what I think we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can connect through the magic here of TV and see if we can pull up Kevin. We got Kevin here. Kevin, can you hear me out there?
I can.
Awesome. Awesome. And if you guys can't hear Kevin, I'm sure you're going to give me a message, but I think you can hear him loud and clear because it's showing up on Skype here. Kevin, welcome to Let's Talk Reef.
Hey, Terrence, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's about time you're here. You're always so busy. I must have contacted you like 64 times, and you keep saying no, you're so busy.
I don't know about that, but
no,
yeah.
That's not true. But Kevin was so gracious to come on to the program here for us and talk about fish, okay? Maybe it's a little bit of corals too and everything, but you know, first and foremost, why don't you just give us, your quick bio background here? You know, I know you're at liveaquaria.com, everybody knows that, but what was before all of that and led up to that?
Yeah, well, I had a great family that supported me with my aquarium keeping endeavors. You know, I started when I was like 6 years old, and when I was 16, I had 21 tanks in my parents' basement. I used to breed a lot of African cichlids, worked in a retail pet store, and it was right when reef keeping started to become popular back in the early 80s. So, you know, we saw some different types of systems. Dupla was coming on board with bioballs and some, you know, we've got actinic lighting and stuff like that. We sold Shurin, reactors.
Bioballs.
And, oh, yeah, good old Dupla bioballs. Those were great. So, you know, I really learned a lot working in retail, and then I went on to work for an import-exporter for marine and freshwater fish after college. I graduated in marketing, and then, ran an import-exporter for about 8 years, and then wrote the LiveAquaria website in the year 2000 with my team and I back in Dayton, Ohio, and moved up here to Rhinelander, Wisconsin in 2002. So.
Okay, so there's a little bit of history I didn't know about. Maybe some people don't know this. So you created LiveAquaria in 2000, and basically we're importing fish and corals and decided this is the internet, right? The internet's 6 years old at that point, and which is really young. And you said, well, I can do this and sell this stuff over the internet. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we were one of the first direct-to-consumer livestock suppliers online. So it's a really
lots to learn, I bet, huh?
Heck yeah, a lot to learn, especially with logistics and freight, and of course customer service. And yeah, it's a really steep learning curve.
Yeah, and then after that, how long until it became Doctors Foster and Smith? Because obviously those merged at some point, right?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. It was. I worked for a guy named Don Layden at Pet Warehouse in Dayton, Ohio. We were one of the larger, aquatics catalog companies. We sold a full line of pet. Dr. Race Foster and Dr. Marty Smith purchased our company back in 2002. So that's where I moved from Dayton up here to Rhinelander, Wisconsin, and love it up here in the Northwoods. So
Cool. And so, as far as the company's concerned, now LiveAquaria is not part of DFS anymore because DFS became part. Tell us how that whole thing went down.
Sure. So back in 2015, Race and Marty had decided to sell the business, and Petco came in and of course acquired Doctors Foster and Smith and LiveAquaria, the brand that I run. Earlier this year, that Doctors Foster and Smith operations and products and so forth has transitioned to Petco.com. So, we're still carrying on here in Rhinelander and in my facility here with about 62 partners and running the LiveAquaria business and having a great time, taking care of customers, selling
But
fish.
you're still part of the Petco group, though, right?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, Petco's a parent company. So.
Okay, but they don't influence you much because you do your own thing, right?
Of course. I mean, they're great support actually from a financial perspective, which is the most significant for us here in the coral farm. We wouldn't have had the capital investments that we had the opportunity to upgrade a lot of the equipment here. So I'm super thankful for that. But yeah, they pretty much stay the course. We have a really different strategy than, of course, brick and mortar. So, we're really focused on the true hobbyist to enthusiast level customer. And, we really try hard to provide the best quality animals in the marketplace.
Interesting. Okay, well, I put together a bunch of questions, and I hope these guys are coming up with some questions too. But one of the biggest things I see out there all the time is this animus between online and the local fish store, right? So it's one or the other kind of thing, right? I don't know. Maybe do you have a hard time showing your face at some of these local fish stores, or?
Not at all. I mean, I grew up in a local fish store. I worked in a local fish store for 8 years, and like I said, I think it's important. There's a good synergy between a local store to get consumers into the hobby itself. And if you live in a major metropolitan area, you've got a wealth of awesome retail stores around you. Hopefully, if you live out in the sticks, not so much. So that's where we come in to be able to offset or be able to help service hardcore hobbyists that maybe don't live in a major metropolitan area that we can provide animals direct to your door. So
I'm 100% in agreement with you, and I often run into some of those people though that don't necessarily feel that way, right?
Sure.
And I try to explain that same thing to them. It's it's the rising tide thing, right? It's if everybody is being supported in some way or another that they want to be supported, it means they're going to be in the hobby longer. It means you're going to have a chance to have them as a customer. And so that's super important, whether it be education and then dry goods or livestock or whatever it is, it kind of all works together.
Sure.
So that's great. Awesome. So on LiveAquaria, it's not just fish. I kind of think of LiveAquaria as just fish. But is it, how much more of it is coral fish? What is the split?
I mean, the majority of what we sell in LiveAquaria is, of course, fish. I mean, that's how we built our brand. We add value to the animals that we sell, especially what we bring in here in Rhinelander and condition up for the Diver's Den for the sale in the Diver's Den store on LiveAquaria. So that basically built our brand. We also, of course, have a coral farm here. So we've got 30,000 gallons where we're propagating and growing corals from broodstock as well. Mm-hmm. So that's the focus of our business. And also from a hard goods perspective, we're really trying to focus on what can actually add value to the animals and what can actually help us as hobbyists care for the animals within our aquarium.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I don't think of LiveAquaria as selling any kind of dry goods at all. I mean, other than maybe stuff to dip my corals or for fish bath, for those kinds of things. But I know, of course, you do have dry goods. Where do you think, I mean, what's your sweet spot in the dry goods? Is it we're going to try to carry everything, or is there a particular, angle you're going to go for?
Definitely not. We don't have the capacity or the ability to carry everything. And what we do is we want to partner with great vendor partners like you, for example, and others. We want to really tailor the assortment of our offering to our customer base, which again is the hobbyist to enthusiast level customer. So things like nutrition to support fish health. You're really focusing on consumables like food, for example, filter media, high-tech equipment such as Neptune.
Right.
We want to be able to take care of the animals, make sure that we get alarms if something's wrong with our aquariums. And I mean, that's, I think you and I both agree about that.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Somebody asked one of the questions here, and I'll come back to some of my others, but since Derek Picker here said, can you shed some light on your quarantine process? And we're not talking about what they should do as quarantine, but
Sure.
You're, as a company, what is the process that you guys go through from the moment? Obviously, it probably happens right before you even bring the fish in. There's probably a level of quarantine that happens even when you collect, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we buy from multiple supply lines, and I would assume we're talking about fish here because we do quarantine corals as well.
Right.
We keep those segregated for inbound stock that we're buying from either Australia or Tonga or wherever that may be. But for fish, the fish are all brought into this building next day air from multiple supply lines, and we really choose strategically who that we engage business with. So we don't buy from anybody. We buy from a few key vendor partners that we know the supply line, we know the collectors, and we know basically the whole supply chain, because that's the most important for all of us is the chain of custody. Some of these supply lines are so long that you really lose track of who harvested the fish, where they went to, et cetera, et cetera. So when we bring these fish in here, we actually have 4 different systems for marine fish only. And the fish that come into this building are segregated from one another, and they're actually acclimated under red light. The fish are really stressed when they come in. So our quarantine system is about a 4,000-gallon system. It's got cubicles and tanks and more commercial equipment. We use RK2 systems, big, huge foam fractionators, and like 960 watts of amalgam UV bulbs. We've got a big 3-ton chiller on the roof for all of our fish systems as well. So we want to, again, keep these fish segregated.
Talk about tech name dropping. 960 watts of amalgam UV. I mean,
well, I think it's important that folks understand that we don't want to have a bunch of tanks with air stones. We actually have very high-tech equipment. It's very similar to a public aquarium or very large displays or big habitats that we're trying to take care of. So,
of course.
But again, the fish are brought in. Most of our suppliers ship at a pretty low specific gravity, so we actually don't hyposalinity the animals. We set the inbound QT system at 1.018 so that the adjustment of these fish to a higher salinity over time takes place. So we run these fish at 1.018 in our quarantine system for about a week and a half to 2 weeks, and then we transfer them over to what we call our main fish system. And we're administering therapeutic levels of copper sulfate. Since we run ozone and UV, it's important that we run ionic copper so that we can run it at 0.15 parts per million, which is a therapeutic dose of copper. I'm sure UV and ozone destroys the chelation bond from chelated copper, and it becomes incredibly toxic to the animals. So we've got to be very, very careful on how we're handling these fish and moving them from system to system. But eventually the fish will get adjusted up to 1.025 specific gravity. They've been fed properly, and they're accustomed to people and the prepared foods that we're trying to feed. And then we'll eventually select them for photography for the diver's den. So fish are in here for a minimum of 2 weeks. Could be a maximum of a half a year to a year. We've got a lot of fish in this building that maybe have very specific feeding requirements that we don't want to just pop them up on the website and have somebody say good luck with them.
So the only thing you're treating them with is copper. That's it, and obviously the UV and the ozone.
It depends on the species of fish, and Terrence has a great question. So we're dealing with clownfish. We see Brooklinella a lot. So what we want to do is administer a freshwater bath or even a formalin dip first for those. Other types of fish, things like anthias, even things like green chromis, are very susceptible to urinema. Urinema is a protozoa infection that attacks fish very, very quickly. So we'll utilize formalin to address urinema issues, and we'll also use praziquantel and metronidazole for, say, wrasse that maybe have flukes like Cerulabris wrasse or Paracalinus wrasse. So it's really strategic on, number one, who the supplier is, number two, what the genus and species of fish are, and we've got a really good track record of how to handle each group of fish.
Very interesting. So a couple of weeks is what you said before they even are available for sale to the customer. And then I heard you say something about selecting them for Diver's Den. Obviously, so only a certain subset of fish then get selected for Diver's Den?
Correct. Yeah, so we shoot about 65 fish a day. So, we've got thousands of fish in this building right now. But yeah, when they're ready, when we know that they're adjusted to people and foods and so forth, and they're in optimal health, we've got some great partners here in LiveAquaria that have a lot of experience with understanding animal behavior and can, of course, monitor the fish and go, hey, that guy's not looking right. Let's put him back in QT. We'll continue to administer medications for him or whatever that may be.
So do you pick them? I mean, obviously you have some super expensive species. Those obviously go into Diver's Den. But I also see some more economical fish, or sometimes even groups of fish that go into Diver's Den. Is that just because they happen to be more special specimens, or it just happens to be, hey, let's get 3, orange anthias today and put a trio of orange anthias into Diver's Den, and so then we go shoot the photo on them? What's the process?
So for anthias, most people buy anthias in groups. So we want to offer trios or 6 lots, say, of anthias. For more affordable fishes, we want folks to be able to round out their shopping basket. So if you're in the market, Terrence, for, say, Zebrasoma gemmatum, a gem tank, but you want a Midas plenty for your tank too, be able to do that just through the Diver's Den, which is we want to offer that package to consumers, basically.
Okay. Now, when I buy a fish from LiveAquaria, is every single fish coming through your facility?
It's not. So what's in the Diver's Den store on liveaquaria.com is all here in Rhinelander. We also utilize vendor partners that will ship direct to consumers as well. So we've worked with a few groups of suppliers that we've worked with for, almost 20 years now, where there's a specific group of partners that have been there in these facilities for many, many years and go through and strategically select specific animals for our customers.
So my question is then, so the discussion we just had about quarantine, that's only for Diver's Den?
That's correct. Only for Diver's Den.
Only for Diver's Den. The other fish that you sell don't go through that same process. They could come in basically off the boat.
I wouldn't say off the boat. The suppliers that we deal with don't turn and burn fish that quickly. Okay. So they'll come in, they'll be rested, they'll be conditioned to captive environments, and then be basically put on our stock.
But not the same process that you do.
Not at all. Not at all.
So the reason I'm doing this, I just want to inform people out there. I mean, sure. Sometimes you go and look in Diver's Den, and you're like, oh, well, that's an expensive fish. It's like, well, there's a reason it's an expensive fish compared to the one that, not trying to slight them, but your local fish store just happened to buy from somebody who happened to just bring it in, and it's been 4 days from coming in from overseas. Yes, maybe it's rested a little. Yes, maybe they didn't put the sick ones in, but it's certainly not the same as 2 weeks of the Rhinelander facility taking care of those fish.
You're spot on. So, okay. We always recommend, regardless, to quarantine animals that we bring in. We're quarantining the animals we bring into this facility. Hopefully, I think you do sometimes, maybe not. But we always recommend to customers, regardless if you're buying from the Diver's Den or you're buying captive bred fish or you're buying fish off the LiveAquaria website, that you want to at least keep them out of your display aquarium so that you can monitor their behavior and their health prior to introducing them into your display tank.
Right. Let me see if I got a couple questions for you that are in here. Here's one. Let's see this one. See if I can actually drag and drop. If it'll let me. Oh, I got the magic here. Maybe not. There it is. He says, I would like to know if LiveAquaria feels they have seen an increase in the number of issues or DOAs they've experienced recently, or if that's just an internet perception. Also, what an increase in DOAs influences in changing to a store credit policy for them instead of a refund. So he's got some specific questions for you there.
Sure. So have we seen an increase in DOA? It depends on the time of the year. there's a lot of seasonality that's involved in this industry. So, when seasons change is when we experience the most significant problems, and that's true in the wild. When you're out diving on coral reefs, when there's significant temperature changes on reefs, you do see fish that maybe aren't in optimal health. So, yeah, we do experience more seasonal issues again, primarily around when seasons are changing. Okay. As far as our policy to provide a credit back for folks, in order for us to provide the level of service and keep our pricing where it's at, it's important that we, of course, utilize specific methods such as this. So it's not uncommon for any e-tailer in the space.
Yeah, I think it's completely reasonable.
Do
absolutely.
Credit on file.
Does LiveAquaria use veterinarians at all in-house?
No, we don't.
Okay. Let's see here. Are you supporting working with local USA clownfish breeders? If so, this is from Reef Hacks. If so, how is it possible to contact you or your team?
Well, you can contact us through our Contact Us page on LiveAquaria. You can contact us through either Instagram, Twitter. We've got a Facebook channel. We'd love to hear your comments and questions and shoot the bull with you about keeping fish.
No, but the question was, do you accept fish from U.S. clownfish breeders, like independent breeders or things of that nature?
We don't. So we're very strategic in who we engage business with. Oceans, Reefs, and Aquariums in Fort Pierce is one great company that we choose to do business with. Sea and Reef as well is another one.
Great stuff from Sea and Reef.
You bet. And of course, biota. We're fortunate to offer a lot of biota captive bred fishes, as well as Baleacra rich stuff from Indonesia. There's a lot of great angelfish that are being produced.
Those things are amazing. Some of those angels with the weird markings on the side and stuff. Those those things are really neat. Another one. This is a really good one. I've been wondering about Moorish Idols for quite some time. We actually had an employee here. It's like, hey Terrence, what about a Moorish Idol? So I'd love to hear your input on this. What about Moorish Idols for some time now? Are they still a hard fish to keep despite all the technological advances in the hobby? I feel like you don't hear much about this species anymore. Let me know.
Yeah, so Moorish Idols do have specific husbandry requirements. What we do is we vet out, we only buy Moorish Idols from short supply chains, whether that's Fiji or Hawaii. So we choose not to purchase them from the Indian Ocean, and we choose not to purchase them from, say, Indonesia or the Philippines. What most people, I think, don't understand is Moorish Idols need a very, very large aquarium. They require a lot of swimming space, and they don't get along with each other too terribly well. So if you want to keep an idol, I would suggest it's the only surgeon fish that's in the aquarium, and make sure you buy one from either Fiji or Hawaii. You're going to have a much better luck that way.
Yeah, the advice I basically told him was pretty much anecdotal from seeing Lance out in Florida, which is, even if you get like a 30-gallon tank, as long as it's the only fish in there and you can feed it exactly what you want, you don't have to worry about it competing for any other food or anything. And maybe you have a couple of little fish that live on the bottom, but it's like a species-specific tank. You could probably really manage a great tank for that fish.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're not getting picked on and they're the dominant fish in the display. Right. I mean, you bring up a great point, Terrence. That's what I think a lot of folks overlook. They want to throw everything in their aquarium. And of course, we know that that's just not possible. So it's really important that you plan out your stocking strategy for your aquarium, and ultimately what you want to see is the end result. And if you do that, you're going to be much more successful than trying to put fish in randomly, or you go into a store and see this super healthy Moorish Idol, tank's packed, the fish is eaten in the store, and you bring him home and he never survives because your Jamatum tank just beat the crap out of it for the whole time. So they're not doing well is generally related to their eating and their habits with other fish, as opposed to getting parasites or other things that come in from the wild. In my experience, that's correct.
That's what I thought too.
Buy them from the right supply chains and you introduce them into the right displays. I mean, they are a very tricky fish to keep alive, but if you do it properly, you can be successful with that species.
Now, another question. It's actually the same person, Stellarfly SBK, and he asked this earlier today on our Facebook post. He says he's interested in Multibar Angels, which I love the Multibar Angel. I think it's one of the best out there. And strangely enough, I remember being over at Sanjay's place, ding ding, name drop, I was telling him how much I loved him, and then I had just looked at Diver's Den, and you guys had, I don't know, 2 of them or something like that, or 3 of them, and he's like, the next day he was like buying them off at Diver's Den. But this particular person says, how can you be successful with these guys? I know I met another person over at BRS who keeps a bunch of these and who's trying to breed them, believe it or not.
Chad?
Yeah.
Chad Boston.
Yeah, I think that's who. And
Yeah.
And he he was saying how hard it is to kind of get them right and to get them to live. What's the secret? Why don't they do so well? And what's the secret if we want to have one?
So all of those complex of angelfish are called paracenteropygi. So it's Venusta, Collins, boil eye, the peppermint angelfish, and multibar. I don't know if I mentioned Venusta or not. So the purple masked angelfish. So what we found with those fish is, number one, they're incredibly sensitive to copper. So the last thing you want to do is bring that fish into your home and immediately treat it in a quarantine aquarium with copper. So what we try to do is we try to bring these paracenteropygi angelfish in here. We'll actually we'll freshwater dip them and then put them in our coral raceways. And they do much better when they can basically graze all day on, say, Zoanthus polyp or the rock that the polyps are on.
Or probably little sponges behind the back, or tunicates, or those kinds of things.
Spot on. Yeah, there's a lot of copepods, a lot of tunicates, a lot of sponge. So a really great varied diet to get that feeding response started. For a consumer at home, I would suggest actually taking, say, a 30-gallon or a 50-gallon quarantine tank and make sure that it's got some live rock in there and some sand maybe out of your display that's well established. So there's natural food sources for the fish as well. But those species of fish are that complex of fish, the genus Paracenteropygi. They're very cryptic fish. So it's very, very important that these fish are introduced more towards the front end of your stocking strategy than the back, because normally they'll your fish in your display have staked out all of their territories. You try to introduce these more cryptic fish into your display, and they never can settle in because they're constantly stressed from being picked on.
Because they don't have a hole to go to. Some other fish has taken up that hole and is chasing them around, getting them out of their hole, whatever it happens to be. Very interesting.
Just to add to that, a lot of people say, how do you keep Ventralis anthias alive? They're impossible to keep alive. Exact same strategy with those fish. They need to be the dominant fish in the display before you introduce anything else in there, and you're going to have much better success.
Very interesting. I mean, that advice on the multibar, that's really good. I can see. I mean, if you enjoyed having fish in your sump, like Brad Seifus has his Lenardi in his sump still. If you enjoy that, then a multibar would probably do great, like in my big sump, where you just let them just graze on everything that's down there underneath those rocks and everything. So, no doubt.
Great way to condition that fish.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
great
then
way.
what do you do though?
Well, for you need to set up another tank. So you need to set up, maybe a 4-foot tank that's like a lower lit, cooler water biotope.
Right.
Your wife will do that, right?
All right, let's see if I got some more of my own questions here, because I had some what I thought were good ones, probably not. Let's see here. Okay, here's a funny one. This one gets me every time, okay? Because you guys have such good search results when I look for a fish to see what it's about. It's great. You guys rank really well. So I come to your site, great information, and then probably a third of the time for Reef Safe it says yes, okay? And probably maybe a sixth of the time it says no, and then the rest of the time it says with caution.
Yeah.
What in the heck is with caution? How can you have with caution?
Well, that's a good question, number one. Back when we wrote the website, that was a little bit different than what we all understand now. So we not only keep corals, of course, stony corals and soft corals and so forth in reef aquariums, but we're also keeping invertebrates in there as well.
Clams,
so,
yeah.
Clams, crustaceans, gastropods, etc. So that's where the gray area is in regards to the with caution. So, we really need to add a different element or a different layer of clarity.
It cracks me up every time, because I just think to myself, okay, so basically give it a shot, and then what the heck do you do? It's like
hopefully you're good at trapping fish or
with
getting
caution.
them out of
So
your
you're like,
play.
I'm very cautious while I'm adding him to the tank, and then what now? With caution. It's so
So,
funny
so
to me.
Terrence, I mean, the hardest part is based on your experience level, right?
Right.
For people that are just getting into the hobby, the last thing we want to do is, try to recommend something that could potentially not work out well in the aquarium. So we'd rather err on the caution of safe with caution, than to, try to promote putting this fish in a reef aquarium. If it
Sure.
decimates some of your corals or your crustaceans, you'll be calling me up and complaining pretty
I just
hard.
want to see like a percentage, right? Like, 95% it's not going to mess with your stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
35% it's going to chance of it messing with your stuff in the average reef aquarium, whatever that is. Then I go, okay, now I can at least know what my odds are when I roll the dice.
And we've got over 1,000 species of fish to offer on our website, so it's pretty comprehensive.
Okay. So now here's the next question. Okay. 3 fish or inverts, okay, that are often sold or you often see sold, not necessarily at liveaquaria.com, but maybe some of them are, okay, that kind of bugs you because they really shouldn't be kept in home aquaria. 3 of them.
So I'm supposed to name 3 fish?
Yes.
Is that the challenge here?
That it just kind of grinds you when you see somebody at a fish store, they're selling it, or somebody else online, or what have you. Because maybe it's because, it's hurting the fish in the environment, or maybe it's because it has 0 chance at all of success, or maybe it's dangerous, whatever it may be.
Sure. So number 1 is tank busters. Any fish that gets so large that the chance of someone not responsibly either disposing or rehoming that fish. Panther grouper is a great example. We choose not to sell panther grouper fish because they get so large.
So I'm going to stop you there because my first aquarium, 1985, first marine aquarium that I had, okay, was a 65-gallon hex in a bamboo pagoda. And the first fish me and my buddy put in it was a panther grouper about that big. It was so awesome. Those,
yeah. Beautiful fish. They just grow too large for the home aquarium.
And then it was like 2 weeks later, 15 goldfish later, it was about that big, and then that big. So those, and then on top of that, we had a 6-bar grouper or something like that as well. So the fish that get too big, that's the number 1. And panther grouper is a common one. What's another common one?
Oh boy. I mean, there's blue spotted groupers. There's all kinds of different either hogfish or groupers or big, huge parrotfish. Just again, batfish is another one, like Platex pinatus batfish. Look beautiful when they're little guys. They're black with this bright orange stripe around them. They're even cultured, Baleaca Ridge cultures that fish. Which is not really a great fish for the home aquarium.
Okay. So. Number 2.
Number 2, obligate corallivores. So we're very selective on butterfly fishes that actually consume coral polyps in the wild. So things like Chaetodon myri, Chaetodon ornatissimus, those are fish that should not, in my personal opinion, be harvested and they should be left on the reef. I know there is a few very, very skilled aquarists that want to try to work with these fish, try to convert them over onto, either a diet they smear on coral heads or, dead corals or whatever. Right. But that is like 0.1% of all hobbyists. So we choose not to even offer those types of fish.
So you know what fish my wife just asked me to go find for her?
What?
That blue face butterfly or whatever it is. What is it? I can't remember what it's called. It's ventrale or something. It's the one with like this yellow with the blue on the side of its face. And I think Brad actually had one at one point. So she was asking for that one. I'm like, I'm not getting that fish. You crazy? It's going to eat everything in my tank.
Yeah, there's Plebeius butterfly that has this big blue spot in the side of the bright yellow fish.
Yeah, I was like, no, if it says butterfly fish, you can't have it.
Yeah. We have had good luck with things like orange-spotted filefish, however. Those are obligate corallivores as well. However, when you get them from a really short supply chain, that's such as, say, Fiji, these fish are harvested and we'll get them, maybe 5 or 6 days later. We can convert them onto either fish eggs or a dry prepared diet. Okay. And we'll take about 30 days to condition those fish over, so.
Okay, and then number 3.
Number 3, wow.
How about mandarins?
Mandarins, in the proper care, mandarins do really, really well.
Well, I understand, but mandarins are also sold very inexpensively, and they're sold a lot to new hobbyists because new hobbyists see those fish, they're scootering around on the bottom, they look beautiful, and they think, yeah, I'd love to have that.
For sure. And that's where education comes into play. That's where you and I and everyone else in this industry need to educate newer aquarists on responsible aquarium care and steer folks away from those types of fishes unless they're going to put them, in a very well-established aquarium with copepods and copepods and natural food sources.
Okay. Let's see if I got any other questions out here. Okay. Oh, here's a good question, and I think not many people do this anymore, but it's a good question. You think there's problems that arise when you feed freshwater goldfish or any other feeder fish, I imagine, to saltwater predators? Heard there can be problems with the digestive system.
Yeah, it's really not good. A lot of people feed or choose to feed, say, goldfish to things like Pterois lionfish. It's really, infrequently it's fine, but it's not ideal from a nutritional perspective for that animal. So I'd rather try to steer somebody that's trying to do that more towards things like silversides or prepared foods with like a feeding stick. And if you really work hard at it, you can convert them over normally.
Or if you're like Rich Ross, you can use the culls from people's clownfish, right?
For his Rain 40, no, it was a Balana Percopili.
Yeah.
Good old Rich. So I'm not suggesting folks do that, but for Rich, it worked out really well. So.
Hey, but they were all going to get, chopped up and thrown away anyway, so there's a point there.
It worked very well for him, so.
Let's see here. Somebody else said, what about saltwater acclimated mollies as feeders? It's like, why don't you just feed them silversides and be done with it, right?
Yeah. Again, silversides, krill. There's a plethora of food that you can feed these piscivorous fish that you can convert them over to a prepared diet. So.
Yeah, I think it's just simply because, come on, let's be real. It's entertaining.
People like to see them.
It's entertaining, okay? And if you don't think it's entertaining, you're a liar, because it's entertaining.
Yeah. I would suggest trying to utilize crustaceans like ghost shrimp, things like that you can actually enrich with, a really good vitamin-enriched diet.
Like gut load, right?
Yeah, exactly. Gut load for your anglers and your like I said, your carnivorous fish like lionfish especially. Okay,
so here's always the question of the day, right? It comes up all the time, which is quarantine. You got to, this is the Pandora's box of questions, right? When it comes down to it. So there's quarantine and treat, right? Which is I'm bringing the fish in. I'm going to put these various medications and stuff in them, watch them, keep them there for a certain amount of time, and then introduce them into the aquarium, right? There's quarantine and the tank transfer method, right? That's there. There's kind of separate quarantine, kind of, but you're just observing until you know that these fish, hey, they look like they're doing well, they're not showing signs of issues, and now I can introduce them. And then there's more or less, acclimate, put them through some sort of a bath of various sorts, and kind of just go for it. So where are you on this whole spectrum? And then there's obviously just, chuck them in right from the store.
Cut and dump.
Yeah, exactly. So where do you sit on this? Because obviously it's not, I don't think it's fair to say, oh yeah, everybody should just quarantine and do this exact, because it's not reasonable for a lot of people. They're not going to do it, okay, for whatever reason, and you can slide them for it. But if you could say, hey, at least do this. Mm-hmm. So where do you sit on all this spectrum?
So I'm a proponent of isolating these animals that you bring into your home, whether you're going to medicate them or not. That's completely up to the end consumer. I would choose not to. I would bring fish into my home, put them in an isolation tank so that you can at least monitor and observe the fish. You can make sure they're eating properly and they're rested and ready to be introduced, say, into a acclimation box or something in your display aquarium. I would suggest not medicating fish unless you see a specific ailment, because a lot of consumers will start mixing medications, and a lot of these medications will impede the biological filtration process in an aquarium. And you can't look at a tank and go, that tank has a level of ammonia that's going to be lethal to the fish, right? I think even experienced folks like us, we can't even do that. So we can observe the fish and see something's really not right with it and maybe grab the test kits and test. But I think a lot of folks bring fish in, try to put them in a quarantine tank that maybe you're not putting seeded biological media in that quarantine tank. You don't have a stable temperature that's critical for animals that you're bringing into your home. You're just adding even more stress.
That's why I wonder, the whole thing, and the time involved and all of that, and trying to find, what is a reasonable place to be. And this is for the animals, right? Because look, people are going to buy the fish. People are going to, be in the hobby, and we want them to do the best they can and have the best likelihood for success given their capability, resources, all of these things. It's not necessarily reasonable for some people to go, you know what, I'm going to keep these in this tank for 2 weeks. I'm not going to medicate them. I'm going to have to change the water because there isn't any biological in there, right? I have to change the water every 2 days, or look at a strip with ammonia on it. And, I don't know, what is it? 1 in 10, 3 in 10 times they're going to mess that up somehow, or they're going to forget, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen. They're going to kill 5, 6 fish in a tank. When,
sure.
If they had looked at them for 2 days or 3 days, right, and said, you know what, there's no real signs of anything happening here, they're eating, they're doing whatever, and then transferring them into their main display, are they taking a risk? Yes. Okay, but what is worse in the whole scheme of things?
There's a lot of great information out there about how to set up a quarantine tank properly, and it doesn't need to be very, very costly. And again, if you're doing it right, I'm a very, very strong advocate of quarantining any fish or coral that you bring into your home prior to introducing it into your display. I think it's basically everyone's level of risk that you're willing to take.
Right.
I mean, if the tank behind me, I've got some super expensive fish in. There's a Central Pygmy interrupta pair in this tank. I am not willing to just blindly throw another fish in this tank
Clearly.
and compromise the health of these animals. So again, I would strongly suggest for anyone to do a little bit of research. You can set up a QT tank for pretty affordably. As long as you're taking cycled media out of your sump, maybe some gravel out of your display tank, you can really do it properly and be very successful at it.
What's the likelihood, though, if I do, let's say I do take a chunk of rock and I stick it in my quarantine tank, and I do have a fish that has a disease, that disease is now transferred into that piece of live rock, so now I have to do what? Chuck that live rock, let it dry out, or now I have another group of fish to come to my quarantine tank. Are they going to get what that last fish had?
Yeah, I like using bio blocks. So the ceramic blocks that are really porous, I keep them in sumps behind me, and we'll just take those blocks and transfer them into, say, a power filter that hangs in the back of an aquarium. And that's a great seeded biological media for fish that you're bringing in. And let's just assume that you're going to treat the tank with copper and the fish is going to get sick. I mean, you can just discard that thing and, of course, use your next bio block that's in your sump.
Very good tip. Excellent tip. Okay, let me see if I got another questions from, here's a good question. When a pair of fish are listed as bonded on Diver's Den, what deems them to be bonded? How long have they been kept together? And does it mean more than just being in the same tank for a while, tolerating each other?
Yeah, it's more they're tolerating each other for, say, at least 2 weeks. It depends on the species of fish. Some we can actually sex because they're dimorphic. You can actually see the difference between males and females, where other fish is not so much. It's more of a behavioral thing. It's how they're interacting towards each other. Are they both up in the top left and top right corners of a 4-foot aquarium? Of course, the fish aren't getting along. So, it's again, things that we can sex, we do, and we offer them as pairs. Others that they cohabitate well in a pretty confined space, so we offer them as bonded.
You don't
pairs.
have somebody there like in the chicken industry that'll sex your fish for you?
Unfortunately not. But again, there's some species of fish that we can sex. So
okay. That's your job?
That is not my job.
Okay. So here's the last question, and then we're gonna have to cut it. Okay. So is it? Do you think it's possible just realistic, possible and realistic for a lengthy period of time for someone to have an ick-free tank, okay, and still enjoy the hobby?
I do.
Really?
Fish develop an immunity to. Can it develop immunity to Amblyodinium or?
No, that's not what I'm saying, though. What I'm saying is not that ick-free, meaning you've kept it out of your tank through all of these methods that people go through. to basically make sure that it is never, ever, ever introduced into the tank?
So can I verify that or tell that? And can you? Probably not.
No.
I mean, we're not doing skin scrapings on fish. We're not looking under a microscope at termites or the parasites when they're in their free swimming state. So there's no one, in my personal opinion, that can guarantee that either a fish or someone's aquarium is 100% disease free. I mean, can you guarantee that I don't have a disease or I'm not sick right now? I mean, I'm acting normal. I feel okay. But, I mean, no one can guarantee that.
So now let's switch back to what you started to say, which I interrupted you and apologize for that, but I wanted to make sure there's some clarity there. The resistance to ick thing that you were talking about, go on with that.
So it's in my experience, I've had aquariums where there has been a temperature changes or seasonal change, and the fish will get stressed and they'll come down with, say, ick, right? Cryptocaryon, which is white spots of ick on fish. Primarily surgeonfish. I mean, you see Zebrasoma tang, Acanthrus tang. They're more susceptible because they have very, very fine scales. They don't have smooth skin, but they have really small scales. So you normally see it on those fish first. It's not uncommon for those fish, if it's not a really bad issue and the fish aren't very, very stressed, that they can fight off that parasitic infection themselves, and then somewhat have some resistance to the next time the next cycle of that cryptocaryon starts to take place. So, in my experience, yes, I've seen many fish that will develop, I wouldn't say an immunity, but they're less likely to be compromised.
That's exactly how I mean, this is the exact way I look at it too. And the reason I formulated the question that way is I see quite a number of people who go through such extents to try to do this, and it's kind of like the zebra mussel thing in the lakes, right? You go through so much effort to try to keep this out, and all it takes is one snail with the water already in it that's got the one stage of the disease in it, and you're done. Or in the case of a lake, you've got one float plane whose bilge puts it into the into the lake, and you're done. And the amount of effort and time and headache and everything that they go through to do this, I go, just be smart about what you do in terms of quarantining and picking your fish and watching and before you put them in your tank and whatnot, and not setting up situations for stress in your aquarium with the temperature. Back to the apex. We didn't talk much about the apex. See, I love this. But if you have a stable tank temperatures, you have stable parameters in your tank, your fish are going to be less stressed, and they'll be able to fight off these diseases much more easily before they become a point of no return, right?
Definitely. And I think even the most advanced hobbyists will overlook some of the most common mistakes or parameters, like temperature. To me, temperature stability is critical. And as seasons change, temperatures fluctuate. Thank goodness we have Apex where you can actually set a pretty tight alarm limit, so you can be notified when your heater fails, or your tank's heating up and you need to adjust the temperature up so it doesn't come back down.
Man. I love that. Look at this. He's in cell mode for Apex. I love it. Well, we're gonna have to have you back on because we're gonna talk about what you're doing there with your Apex stuff. I wanted to just talk fish with you and geek out on that. That's all I wanted to do. I get plenty of time to geek out on Apex gear. But I know you're doing some stuff there, setting up some new tanks and stuff with that. Let's just tease that up. We'll have you on again, maybe in a month or something like that, and we're going to talk about what you do. Maybe you'll hold the camera around and show some of the stuff. How about that?
That'd be great.
Really appreciate having you on here. It's been awesome. I hope you can do it, like I said, regularly, because there's lots that you can share to all of our watchers on Let's Talk Reef. And, until next time, man. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Terrence.
All right. Take care.
All right, you too.
All right. Now, let's see here. Okay. Whew, that was a great interview. Oh, man, I learned so much there myself in that interview. What we're going to do now is we're going to bring Paul on. Paul hasn't even mic'd up, so Mike's off. Paul's off camera here. He needs to get his mic here. Paul, go ahead, man. Paul's gonna mic up. It's already on, buddy, and come in here. But there was so much here to learn. Some of the things I didn't know. For instance, that's why I asked the question of, do all the fish come out of Rhinelander, or should you stick to the diver's den stuff? I think it's gonna be price versus what you want to get, because he goes through a ton of work to make sure those diver's den fish are really as best they can be for you. I think the information on the angelfish, the Moorish Idol, excellent info, especially on the Multibar Angel, which that's my top 10, maybe even my top 5 fish. So I definitely want to maybe give another shot for one of those now that he's given me the tips, maybe some tips for success. Maybe I need to go down the Brad Seifus road. Brad Seifus is in Utah. I know it's a name drop. Many of you don't know, but go look him up on Facebook. You'll be astounded by what an incredible aquarium he has. And if you look at any of our packaging, even our brochures, you will see elements of Brad's aquarium, fish, corals, even the whole aquarium as a whole in some of our older brochures. But Brad received a wrasse, a Lenardi wrasse, and actually he got 2 of them, and one of them didn't make it in the display, and he had the other one in the sump, and now he's kind of scared to death to bring that one to the display, and so it just lives in his sump, and he's happy. So I might do that with the Multibar. Anyway, we're just going to bring Paul on without an intro here. We're going to miss the intro for Paul. Paul's just going to walk in here onto the set.
All right.
Hey, Paul.
Wall, literally.
I know,
right?
just coming right through. So we're back from Reefapalooza.
Yeah.
I know. Sweating it out today, huh?
Yes, today has been a fairly intense day for myself and Vincent, for that matter. It's a lot to put these shows on, guys. I don't know if you've never seen our booth, or and I think I speak for all vendors that to have 2 shows, major shows within 2 weeks of each other, and it broke my heart we couldn't get to Aquashella Chicago. It's just a lot of stuff happened.
We've done a lot this
3
year.
or 4 weeks.
We've done a lot of events this year, and we've got a couple more big ones to go and a few small ones. And but we're going to talk about MACNA. We only have a few minutes here. I don't want to keep people too long on their live stream. We want to cut these things short when we can. Mm-hmm. So MACNA, obviously, it's the 30th through the 1st, just like it is on the screen there. On the 30th, we are doing our meetup in the booth. Yep. As always, we'll be putting on what we do,
right?
Which is amazing. But the meetup is really what we're here to talk about right now.
Yes.
Because if you're not going to MACNA, this is a key reason, if you are an apex geek, a control freak, that you're going to want to go. We've been doing this 7 years. Mm-hmm. We basically buy breakfast. Ken from saltwateraquarium.com helps buy the breakfast for us.
He's a huge sponsor in that part of the meetup.
We give away goodies, the goodie bag.
Yes, there is a goodie bag, and that goodie bag this year is going to have some fun things. We will have the commemorative glass.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. The pint glass.
Yes, the commemorative glass. And the goodie bag is sponsored by Premium Aquatics.
That's right, Premium Aquatics. Every year.
Yep. And we have several speakers this year lined up. I don't know if Terrence is going to go into this.
We have... I'll put him right over your face, Paul. Look at that. Hey. Put Rich Ross right over your face. We have Rich Ross. Okay. He's just a perennial favorite. Everybody loves Rich Ross in the Apex world and in other worlds. So I just want him back each and every year, and he's so gracious to want to speak for us. And then again this year, it's been a couple of years, I think, since we've had him. We've got Mark Callahan, Mr. Saltwater Tank, is going to be there talking. Yep. And we'll be doing that, and then we'll be giving away a ton of prizes. I'm gonna rattle them off.
Let's just emphasize ton there.
Yeah,
guys, there is so much at this meetup.
You should even if you're not thinking about going to MACNA, you're like, I don't know. What I'm about to tell you right now should be the reason that you're going to end up going, because the percentage chance that you'll have to get some major gear will be worth even the one-day ticket to go to MACNA, for sure.
And the tickets this year, they did a great
job. I don't know what the one-days are. Are they $20 or $25?
$30.
Yeah, something like that.
All-time low.
But first and foremost, BRS stepped up. They sponsored the raffle. So BRS is donating, I think, 2 different T5 lights, including one of them from Giesemann. Mm-hmm. They're also donating like 3 or 4 return pumps, a couple of power heads, a full dosing kit with 2 BRS dosers and
all the additive. For like a year.
Yeah, so they're donating all of that for the giveaway, and then we're stepping up, like always.
Of course.
I just sent Paul the list to put on the pallet to go out there. Mm-hmm. Of course, we're going to give away an Apex. We do that every year. Mm-hmm. I think we've got an AFS, a leak detection kit, what else? Do I have a flow monitoring kit on there?
Flow monitoring kit.
Flow monitoring kit.
Core 20.
A Core 20 on there, some MPRs on there.
And then all drum roll.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that one.
All right, a Trident.
A Trident, of course.
Of course, there will be a Trident available.
Of course, a Trident. And then, on top of that, if you are a person in the market for a Trident.
To purchase.
Yes. If you attend this event, there will be 30 Tridents available.
Yes.
Only for people who come to the meetup.
And stay to the end.
And stay all the way to the end.
Yes.
We will draw for, if there's more, if there's 30 or less, then everybody will be able to get one. But if there's more than 30 people, then we will draw, and you will have an opportunity to get a Trident right then and there. You will walk away with it, at our booth at MACNA with a Trident.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is a huge reason to come to this.
Mm-hmm, absolutely, and it's our production team really stepped it up, did a little more, and we're
build
able to
more,
bring,
build more, build more, build more.
Yep. It's a little
We get
mantra,
killed at rapping everywhere, don't we?
little mantra we've given them, and we'll have 30 Tridents there, and we're excited to give those away. And part of Two Terrence, I don't know if anyone's ever gone to the meetup before. If you have gone to the meetup, one thing that's always kind of really frustrated me and a lot of us is the check-in process.
Oh, that's right.
So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about.
Before you do, what I would suggest to you guys is go out to our YouTube page, look up last year's MACNA video. There's a MACNA video. We did like a 3-minute video, and you'll see in that somewhere about halfway through the video, as I go down the line and snake down the line that went all the way through and into the casino and everywhere. So we officially start checking people in at like 7, right?
Yes. So we officially are going to start checking people in at 7. The meetup.
But I'm just going to say, but lining up.
Yeah.
People start lining up at like 5:30 in the morning.
Right. So the way this works, guys, is you have the opportunity right now to pre-register. Pre-registration ends on the 23rd. What pre-registration gets you is the opportunity for the goodie bag, all right? The opportunity for a t-shirt, the opportunity for the commemorative mug. But only the first 150 to 200 people will actually get those goodie bags, commemorative mugs, and t-shirts and those sorts of things. Anyone who pre-registers will have the opportunity to put 2 raffle tickets into the raffle.
That's correct.
Okay? Now, if you don't pre-register by the 23rd, you can still come to the meetup and you can still come in, to enjoy the
Still have a
breakfast.
chance. You'll get a raffle ticket.
Yep,
you just won't get 2.
You'll get 1 raffle ticket, not 2. Okay? So make sure that you pre-register, and then more importantly, make sure that you splash some water on your face nice and early, right? And whatever you got to do, get there to the meetup room as soon as possible. It will be it'll be all around where the MACNA events are occurring, and I think it'll be in a speaker room.
No, it's in the speaker room.
It is in the speaker room, right? So
the Neptune speaker room.
The Neptune.
We are the speaker room sponsor, so it is called the Neptune speaker room.
Perfect. So you'll find the Neptune speaker room on your MACNA information, and you'll go there, and you'll get in the very long line, or if you want to get there really early and be the first one, more power to you. Secondly, I do the whole check-in process, right? So we got all these things of who gets goodie bags, who doesn't, how many raffle tickets you get.
It was a little slow last year.
It was a little slow. It's been getting, because so many people are there, right? It's been getting very slow. So this year I have put together a QR code. You'll get an email that has that QR code. I think we're going to send that out on Tuesday night, and then we'll again send that out on Thursday night. Okay, so you'll get it twice next week. If you got it once, don't worry, it's the same QR code. You're just getting it again, so it's right there in your inbox, and we'll send it really late on Thursday, so it's the first email that you find on Friday morning.
Okay, good. And it'll have a QR code, and so you don't have to print it. You can just do it on your phone, right?
Just do it on your phone. You show that, check in. It'll tell us exactly who you are, how many tickets you get, do you get a goodie bag, all those sorts of things. So,
awesome.
Hopefully that'll speed things up a lot, so we can interact with other control freaks, enjoy your breakfast, all those sorts of different things.
We're going to have some fun. We have fun every year, and who knows? I mean, last year we did the Rochambeau, rock, paper, scissors.
On the
right?
Tridents, yep.
Yeah.
To
win an Apex.
To win the Apex, that's right.
So, I don't know, maybe we'll do it again this year. It's so fun. It was such a hoot, and maybe we'll make it just a thing we'll do every time.
Right.
So you guys have to practice on your on your rock, paper, scissors. Okay.
And then just our booth, you know, in general, we're going to have a great crew there. We'll have software engineers, hardware engineers, support, Terrence, myself, salespeople. All of us would be exciting to hear feedback from you, excited to answer your questions and speak with you. You'll be able to see all the Neptune system stuff. I hear we're going to have a nice tank put together by Top Shelf Aquatics.
Oh yeah. Top Shelf is putting together a stellar tank,
Yes.
and that tank will be for sale at the event.
Right.
And if we can get somebody to pay enough money for it, we will donate the entire thing over $5,000.
And that'll be already loaded out with an Apex. It'll be loaded out with all the equipment you need to run that tank. It'll come with the lights.
It's stellar.
It'll come with the
Unbelievable.
the pumps, the power heads. It'll be a turnkey system in every definition of that word.
Yeah, and it's going to be amazing. And again, go watch that video from last year. You'll see the kind of tanks we're putting together at the show now. Really excited about it. We got to kind of, I think, turn this one off for now, Paul. We're going to have to say goodbye because we're getting to about a minute 6.
Definitely thanks, Kevin, for coming on for that interview. I heard some really cool things. It was
it was a really good interview.
I mean, I just know it as a hobbyist, right? When I was first getting started, what did I do? Like at least 2 or 3 times a day, diversden.com.
Oh, that's the thing too.
But,
you know,
it just all the time.
Again, I keep talking about Brad Seifus. Brad kept telling it's like he's like up like all night, like pushing the button, the refresh button. So it was good, and we're gonna have him back on, I know for sure, because he's got a lot to share with all of you guys, and we'll do more Apex related stuff next time.
Cool.
But that's about it for now. The next show will actually be September 10th. We're going to skip the post MACNA week. We're going to take a little break, okay, and do it the week following that.
All right.
I made that decision. I was like, okay, that's enough. Okay, we're going to take a little break. So come back on September 10th. Remember to subscribe and like the page, subscribe to the channel so that you're going to get notified when it comes out. Sorry that YouTube didn't work this time, guys. Yeah. Don't know why. I'm going to have to go look back. But what we will do is take the recording and do a watch party on it on YouTube. So look for that.
Trident t-shirts.
Oh, Trident t-shirts.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry,
one more thing.
I don't have one here. I forgot to bring it in here.
Oh no.
The Trident Believe t-shirts. You can find them out on
You've seen them
store.
around. There are now limited edition Trident t-shirts. I just put them online right before the show. Go to shop.neptunesystems.com. Just search for Believe, and there are unique Trident unicorn shirts now available in orange and gray, medium through extra large.
Excellent. So
While supplies last, limited edition.
Limited edition. Yep, absolutely. All right.